you all. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Thank you for coming in.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it being here. If you'd like to take a few minutes, tell us about yourself and your application.
I think you and Mr. Lighty go to the same bar.
Is that Barbara Gillette? Hey, well, thank you. Hey, listen, to the Hoover City Council, thank you first and foremost for allowing me to come and sit before you today, as well as the general public that's before us here now. But before we get started, my name is Walter Collier, but I go by Walt. And if you will, please don't let my father back in Brandon, Mississippi know that. He'll give me a hard time if he knew that I was saying Walt. I'm here to tell you today why I'm applying for the vacant board seat with the Hoover City Schools Board of Education. My job relocated me to Alabama about 9 years ago, my wife and I, from Atlanta, Georgia. And the reason that, and when we found out that we were moving to Birmingham area, there was no doubt in our minds that we wanted to live in Hoover, Alabama. And we wanted to live here for various different reasons. You know, number one, Hoover is ranked as one of the safest cities in the U.S. The second thing was it offered a lot of different amenities for my family and I. But the most important thing to my wife and I was the Hoover City Schools. And you know, the diversity that they had, and them being ranked one of the best school districts in the state of Alabama, that meant a lot to my wife and I. But on a more serious note right now, you know, my wife and I, we have two sons. I have an 11-year-old son, Robert Priest Collier, who's a sixth grader at Brock's Gap Intermediate School. And I have a 4-year-old son, Walter Keegan Collier, who's 4, and he will be attending Trace Crossings in the fall. My wife, Jennifer Collier, she's a nurse with Alacare Home Health, so she works here in the community, and we're very proud of our sons. I made a commitment to them early on, as an early father, that I would do everything possible to demonstrate and operate with integrity, trust, and respect with those boys, because they watch every single move that I make and everything that I do. Not only do they watch every move that I make, but their friends watch every move that I make as well. So, you know, whether I like it or not, I'm a role model, just like you gentlemen up there. You know, there are young children and there are adolescents that want to be just like you, and they want to be just like me. But I've also made a commitment to my children that I would teach them the importance of education, and graduating, so they could get a job, get out of my wife and I's pocketbooks, and so they can learn to be self-efficient themselves, because that's very important, so they can know how to give back to this community as well. That's something that my father taught me, and that's something that my father's father taught him, and that's very important. So why am I here today, and the reason that I'm applying for this board? Hoover City Schools is a great school system. I don't know what people have said before me, but it's a great school system. It's been great to me. It's been great to my kid that has been in it so far, and we look forward to the opportunity that our 4-year-old is going to have when he attends Trace Crossings Elementary. But I want to be able to help Hoover City Schools to be recognized as one of the best school districts nationally and globally. And also, being able to serve in that capacity is the ultimate act of volunteerism, in my opinion. You see, in my sales profession, you know, everything is negotiable. We deem it as being negotiable. But when it comes to the sake and the education of my children and the children within the Hoover City Schools, that's non-negotiable. I want the best. I want them to have the best. And I'm here to try to help them to be able to continue to get the best that they can get. And that's why I'm here today.
Thank you.
Right.
Big old rings. You got a couple of national championships.
Well, this is from Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi. My grandfather was the assistant athletic director. And if you play ball, you know they don't make rings like this one anymore. So he's no longer with us, but this is sentimental value to me. So, you know, I wear it as a token to him. I feel like he's with me every step of the way.
You can tell strangers it's a Wisconsin.
A Badger, okay. It might rub some people the wrong way in Alabama, right?
Do you have an idea how many children are in the Hoover school system?
Oh, absolutely. Mr. Wright, I believe there are over 13,000 students in the Hoover City Schools.
Do you know how many schools we've got in the system?
I believe there are 17 schools, under 17 schools.
You know what the approximate budget of the schools are?
The approximate budget for the school is roughly 159 million.
Okay, that's the income.
Okay.
Budget's a little high.
Okay,
How
maybe.
much? Do you know what basically the approximate amount of reserves are this year in our school system?
In reserve, I do believe it's over 84 over 84 million dollars.
84 and 100, right? What do you understand the role of a school board member to be?
Well, the role of it, in my opinion, the role of the school board member, Mr. Wright, is you have to work closely with the chief executive officer. And the chief executive officer is the superintendent of the public schools. You have to work hand in hand with that person to make sure that they're accountable and all of the curriculum and activities that go along.
What do you perceive the role of the superintendent to be?
The chief executive office, the forefront of the school, the person that pretty much set the agenda, the initiatives toward the school, and then we as the school board, we back them and work with them hand in hand.
Or vote them down?
Well, that gives you argue, but hopefully you get the right person, at the right time, and so to avoid some of those things. I mean, we have challenges, but who doesn't?
Good answers. Other questions from the council?
What do you see as the real critical issues facing the school board today, and then also follow that up with what you might contribute to help solve these or deal with these critical issues?
One of the critical issues right now, and I do believe that you guys are, the city council and the board is working on doing now, is finding a superintendent. That's the important thing right now. But the second thing I do believe is finding a chief financial officer. It's my understanding that the current CFO's contract is not going to be renewed in June. I believe it is, but it's very important to know who's managing the money for the Hoover school systems. One of the things I would try to do, is use some of my expertise, is really try to work with the board collaboratively to ensure that we get the right person for the job swiftly, so we can make sure that we look at whatever deficits are in play and try to make sure that we can manage the money, that there's a system in place to manage the money moving forward. But it's really important to have a CFO in place, especially since the current one's contract is not being renewed.
Mr. Wright?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Collier, I see why you're so successful in national sales. You present yourself very good, very well.
Thank you, sir.
Reading your answers to the questions on the application, this is a two-part question. You wanted to recognize inequities in the system. So I wanted to hear from you what you perceive the inequities may be. And the second part of that is you speak several times about creating non-traditional methods to address our problems. What kind of ideas would you have for the non-traditional methods? So that's a two-part question.
Hey, well, thank you. That's a great question, Mr. Skelton. I think a lot of times when we look at the traditional way of the current teaching that's going on across the board, whether it's in the public school system, university, right now we do a lot of lecturing. But today's world, with a lot of the kids that we have today, they're so technology-based that they don't really understand a whole lot about strategy and using their minds to think quickly, to analyze complex situations. One of the things when we talk about the non-traditional ideas is developing a mentoring program to help teachers as well as students to understand how to accommodate a non-traditional idea. I made some notes here. I said, for example, traditional teaching approaches are generally teachers directed and follow a cookbook step of activities and demonstrations. But to enhance the quality of teaching and learning in classrooms, non-traditional strategies such as active, cooperative, collaborative, problem-based training can be utilized. So we just bring in people that are good at some things like that are willing to give back as well. I'm not talking about spending a lot of money to bring somebody in, because there are a lot of people that want to give back to communities, and we find out who those people and who those organizations are. We bring them in to kind of give us ideas and help us with some of these non-traditional ideas. As far as inequities in the systems that you spoke about, as a parent sitting on this side of the table, a lot of times we have to base what we hear on media, newspaper, and and some other things, but we don't have all of the facts. I would like to be able to kind of sit down and analyze data and look at a few other things to kind of make a formative decision on what I think some of those inequities are, and then work with the city council and the board to try to make sure we can work past some of those things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Green?
Yes, Mr. President. As far as school board meetings, you able to attend any school board meetings this year?
I've been to, not in 2015, no sir, but in 2014, yes sir.
PTO meetings?
Yes sir, I have. I've been to a few PTO meetings, I have.
On one of your answers, I was looking at, please describe your vision of community outreach. Develop strong relationships, you answered, with parents, families, and the community as a whole. Have you got any specific ideas of how you'd like to do that?
Well, again, Mr. Green, we have to be, somewhat creative. You have a lot of parents, some parents that work in the school system that have more than one child in numerous different schools within the school district. But then you also have both parents that might work full-time jobs in those situations. And a lot of times they can't make all of the PTO meetings, make some of the school settings for the kids. I think that we should probably look at parent publications. A lot of times the goal of mastering things in the community is getting the community involved and getting parents involved. But looking at parent publications and even using technology as an advantage. Maybe we could host some webinars for those parents that work after hours to get their perspective on ideas that we can do and use to make the Hoover City Schools even better. I'm passionate when it comes to these kids and their education. Being from Mississippi, I know the meaning of hard work, and it wasn't easy. But at the same time, if you work really, really hard, then you could be just about anything you want to be in life. And I don't care where you're from, who you look like. But that's what I think, parent publications and maybe some webinars.
And let me ask you this, how would you contribute as a school board member to, you want to work and create innovative, non-traditional school campaigns? What kind of non-traditional campaigns are you thinking of?
Well, the one that I can think right off the top, developing a mentorship program to first teach the teachers about some of the non-traditional ways of doing some things. I know that the University of Montana, they did a study back in the 80s where they had kind of done some work on some non-traditional teaching. So maybe adopt some things like that and bring them down to this area. But you got to have a conversation about it first to see if it even fits. But developing mentorship programs and then reaching out to the local sources as well. We have a lot of large corporations within close proximities that should be able to kind of come in. They're tasked with volunteering and giving back time to the community. And we want to utilize those resources the best way possible to try to help get back to those schools. So maybe utilizing those people to try to help us with some of those non-traditional ideas as well.
Lastly, I'd like to commend you, so to speak. You answered what are the primary strengths you would like that you would bring to the position of the school board. Primary strengths, and normally I hear experience in this, experience in that, cum laude in this, whatever. And you put integrity, trust, and respect.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean it. I mean, in my profession, even as a sales professional, I deal with very large customers. I mean, some of the brands, I won't name names, but they're household brands that we deal with. And I deal at a high level with a lot of the corporate executives. And I can tell you right now, especially when it comes to oil, if they don't trust you, they won't do business with you, period. And they look for a partner. They don't look for someone in the short term because, they have to produce. And as their partner, I try not to let my customers down at all because they depend on me and my team depends on me for so much. So I always learned that playing football, operating with integrity, trust, and respect.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Collier.
Yes, sir.
Talk to us about your financial background and your knowledge of dealing with budgets and financial matters.
Yes, sir. I get the luxury, and I'm excited about this actually. So I get the luxury of being the co-chair of the community campaign. I sit on the board of directors at the YMCA Hoover. And the YMCA Hoover's only been in the area now for a little bit over 3 years. And each year we are tasked with having a 45-day campaign on going out to the community and soliciting funds, because the YMCA pretty much is a charity. And looking at the budgets that we have within the YMCA, we don't have a lot of money to go out and pay for certain things. We have to solicit those funds. And even in my current capacity as a key account manager, you know, I look at spreadsheets all the time. I have to manage my travel budget. From when I'm traveling a little bit, my team's travel budget, I have to meet quotas. So I look at spreadsheets on a weekly basis to try to make sure that I stay in tune with the money that's available for me to use. If there's a way of me to cut back and save more, we look at the ways of doing that and introduce that to the team. If I have to go over budget, I've had to do that in the past unintentionally, then there's a strong rationale for it. I'm able to explain that as well. So, and I have a strong team that works with me. I have a financial team that I work with and a team of legal personnel that I work with in my organization as well that kind of help me stay in tune with those things.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Additional questions, Mr. Collier?
Mr. President, we got a few minutes. This is just a personal question.
Yes,
Kind of
sir.
a sidebar thing.
Yes, sir.
I used to spend a lot of time in Brandon.
Yes, sir.
Over the last 20 or 25 years, has Brandon changed a bunch? I hadn't been back.
Brandon has not changed a bunch. My parents actually, if you know Brandon, then maybe you're familiar with Shallow Road, John Shallow Road, the baseball park.
Right.
Well, my parents live on the cusp. Rural Brandon, Pillahatchee. Brandon it's growing. It's growing somewhat. A lot of people are leaving Jackson and coming out.
Yeah.
But their school systems is not anything close to what we have here in Hoover. I'll tell you that. It's a good school district, but it doesn't compare to what we have over here. So it's still a really good place to live.
Yeah.
A lot of people moving out there. Baseball and soccer are still king out on John Shallow Road. And, you know, the people are still great. That's my father's hometown, so I know all about it. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? We appreciate you interviewing and appreciate you applying, Mr. Collier.
Hey, yes, sir. Hey, thank you very much. If gentlemen don't mind, I'd like to at least come up and shake your hand or allow me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your service. My grandfather was in World War II.
In the Navy, right?
Hey, he was in the Army, but my
There you
mentor
go.
graduated from the Naval Academy. Walt Severa with Shell Oil Company. He's my mentor. Thank you.
Nice to see you, sir.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
What difference did you see in, this is not a question for the job here. What difference did you see in the application when you were recruiting in Georgia, then you recruited at the University of Alabama?
What did I see? What did I see different? You know what?
Championship ring?
That's one. That's one. That's probably it. You know, it's not a lot of difference in young kids. Young kids today, a lot of them seem to be privileged. You know, they don't really understand, you know, work. Some kids may get a job in the city and can still party and do those things, but there are jobs where they're not available in the cities, and they forget that, hey, if I have to go to Macon, Georgia, for example, I'm not going to be able to party and go to all of those games on weekends, and they miss that, and they don't understand it. So I saw consistency in not really having that work ethic, but, you know, I guess the only difference was the national championship thing for sure. But that's about it. You know, but these young kids are getting better. As long as we continue to encourage them, you know, they'll be fine. But it's important that we educate them on the importance of working, but giving back to the same community that helps them.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Right.
Welcome, Mr. Fuller.
How are you? Very well.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
We'll give you the first 3 or 4 minutes. Just tell us about yourself and you're interested in applying for the school board.
Okay. Do you mind if I wrote it down and I can read it to you? So-
We had it every way you want to do it.
Okay, very good. And I'll do my dead level best to stay in the 3 minutes. My reasons for applying for this position fall into 3 areas. 1 is family influence, 2 is career and business experience, and 3 is my volunteer involvement with academics at the college level. First, I'd like to outline my family influence. I come from a close-knit family, one of 6 children. Both parents had college educations, as well as my brothers and sisters. After raising us, my mother went back to Auburn and received her degree and then taught special education in Chambers County for 15 years. This would have been in the 60s and 70s when schools were just beginning to address the education needs of special needs students. I always admired her for that commitment and listened to her stories about the children she taught. 3 of my sisters were also teachers in Alabama and Georgia, and my son was also on the Trenton, Missouri School Board for 5 years. Even though I didn't initially follow my educational career, my family has influenced my thoughts about contributing to education. My wife and I have 7 grandchildren. 1 is a Hoover High graduate, and 4 others are attending Hoover schools. Will be attending Hoover schools for the next 12 years. For this reason, I care about the quality of education they receive. Second is my business experience. I've spent 40 years doing entrepreneurial projects with computer technology, first in Huntsville and then in Birmingham. Computer technology has the promise to enhance the teaching and learning process. I believe my experience with technology can help Hoover schools address this promise. After performing aerospace engineering work on the space shuttle in Huntsville, I felt I wanted to do something that more positively affected more people. This led to recognizing a need for personal financial literacy in adults and students. So I've spent the recent years developing a web-based curriculum, which we have been using to placed in high schools around the state and the country. I have an analytical mindset and like to address problems with numbers and graphs and facts. I believe this will be of value to the Hoover School Board, especially when the logistics of distribution of limited resources. My third area is involvement with Auburn's College of Engineering. I worked with Auburn University for 20 plus years on various advisory committees, in particular with the Aerospace Department for over 10 years in developing, evaluating, and maintaining an accreditation plan for the aerospace engineering degrees. I've also been on the Engineering Research Advisory Committee for the entire College of Engineering, as well as the Computer Engineering Advisory Committee. I'm currently on the Academic and Student Experience Committee to develop initiatives to enhance engineering students' educational experience. I will be meeting with that committee later this week. So in conclusion, as a lifelong resident of Alabama, I want to contribute to maintaining the high standards that Hoover schools have achieved and help set goals for even higher accomplishments. I would like to contribute to something that makes a positive impact on a large number of people. I believe that I can accomplish this being on the Hoover School Board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fuller, do you have an idea how many students are in the Hoover school system?
13,000 or so, 14,000.
You know how many schools we have in the system?
17.
Annual budget of the school system, roughly?
I'm sorry.
What's the annual budget for our school system?
100 million. I had a little trouble. I did look up those things, but I had 100. I think close to 100 million.
Do you have some idea about the amount of reserves our school system enjoys? 90
to 100 million.
Got it. Okay, you got those right. What do you see as the role of a school board member?
Well, setting a policy, I reckon, for how the school is run. I'm toying with other approaches to answering that, but I'd say setting a policy.
What do you see as the role of the superintendent?
Carrying out the policy that the school board sets.
Okay. Questions from the council?
Mr. President, Mr. Fuller, you briefly mentioned in your introduction about the technology. Tell us a little bit about this time maps.
Product.
Apparently it's a product you've been selling to other school districts, and it's an interactive web-based program to enhance the teaching and learning. So if you would give us a little.
Well, I can't remember whether I mentioned that Hoover has actually used that product in the past, but I checked before I came in here, and you guys are not using it currently, and I only bring that up as a point of, somebody might say, well, you're just trying to get on the board to try to enhance the selling of that or whatever.
Be a problem.
I mean, it could be a problem. Actually, right. I can understand that, but My idea in starting that was I had, and it was kind of mid-career when that concept came to me, and that was that I wanted to do something, which I've made the statement, that affected more people, okay? I had a pretty successful career during the aerospace stuff, but I wanted to have something that affected. And I personally had struggled with doing the finances for my own company. And the struggle, I would just tell you, would be you'd pick up one newspaper and it'd say, oh, you need to be worried about the new tax rule X, Y, Z, and oh, you need to be worried about this. And I began to scratch my head. I thought I was a pretty intelligent guy, but it was like, if I'm having trouble keeping up with this, there must be a lot of other people that have trouble keeping up with, financial wherewithal, okay? Anyway, that was the embryo of the idea. The idea from there just evolved into combining the technology, which we had been working with, I had been working with, and my company had been working with really ever since I got out of Auburn, and using that technology to enhance the learning process. And as you probably well know, and the schools well know, I mean, they've been, I'll say, trying to implement and get the fruits of that technology in a lot of different ways. And we basically have put that on the table. I mean, our curriculum, and it's all online now, on the table for schools to get access to. And it basically is sold to schools at $5 a student per year.
Thank you.
I may have been too long-winded with that, but
Additional questions?
Mr. President, Mr. Fuller, in your responses about responsibilities of a school board member, you indicated monitoring of top administrators along with providing resources of effective execution of goals. How far down the food chain does that monitoring go? Does it go down to the principal level or for a school
board member, I mean, I would admit I might have some reservations about that, but, and only because I have having been involved with Auburn, and I'm aware that some of that Auburn had a big controversy about the trustees and all interfering down at too low of a level. Okay, and so
one bank.
I'm sorry.
I think that was one bank.
Well, interestingly, the University of Alabama's got a similar thing. So I reckon I would answer that. I mean, I would maybe have to learn about that, but I would certainly be, the fact that I'm aware of that, I would be cognizant of not, going and tapping the principal on the shoulder and saying, hey, especially if it was one that, and I told you about my grandchildren and stuff. I mean, I would be, and I've been on enough boards and things and to know that that's, I mean, how sensitive you are to that.
You also mentioned about, I guess it's probably some of the issues that have plagued the system over the last year or two. The fact that you bring a new set of eyes and thoughts to the issues. Do you have specific thoughts as to the zoning and the busing?
I do not. No, I do not have specific thoughts about that. I mean, for me, I have not been tracking that per se. Okay, other than to know through the news media that it is an issue. When I made reference to my analytical capabilities and stuff, I would approach, and if you had me on the board, you'd see that I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna plot graphs and I'm gonna present graphs and I'm gonna, talk to folks about, no, wait a minute, the numbers say this or, whatever. So I would be approaching it pretty much from that
I would think
perspective.
anybody that can claim a small part of ownership of the space shuttle, pretty good
Well, thank you.
guy. So.
Thank you.
Life is strong in science and math.
Exactly.
Mr. Fuller, how do you see math enter into and staying with the students as we go into the 21st century of computers and technology, things of this nature?
You phrase that with staying with the student. In other words, continuing to teach that, or just get the student?
Continue to teach and have the student understanding math as they progress in knowledge and wisdom.
Well, coming off of a technology background and then having a knowledge of what computers have allowed even me and my company and actually society to do, I would say that's somewhat of a dilemma, okay, from the perspective that, yes, everybody would always say you need to know math and all to be able to understand the technology, and if you do something like the shuttle or whatever, you can't just accept the numbers that come out, and you got to have math, and you got to understand what that computer program is doing, and you can only understand that through math. Okay, now how do you get that point across to students? There's a struggle, because I mean, when I came through school, I had a slide rule. Okay, I actually talked to some students recently, and several different groups, and I hold up my slide rule and I say, "You did, you know what I'm talking about. Now, do you know what this is?" Well, interestingly, some of them did know what it was, and I applauded them. I said, "But when I got out of Auburn, this is what I had to do computations with today, and I even use this during the shuttle stuff. I mean, the advent of the computer and stuff, you don't really have to worry too much about doing math and all. I mean, I don't, so I don't know what I'm answering. Hopefully I'm answering your question."
You did.
All right, good, thank you.
Well,
Still got slide, I collect slide
A
rules,
lot
by the
of
way.
people have never seen one.
I know that. That's the reason I collect them. They're antiques.
you mentioned the critical issues facing it. You mentioned about charter schools and also, and there are other critical issues. Could you maybe tell us what your perception is of the
I think charter school,
and what you would do to maybe to address some of these critical issues, please?
well, in terms of, and I mentioned, I believe I wrote charter schools as the first one. My wife read that and she said, "You shouldn't have said that, maybe it's the first thing, because it's kind of like we don't know what that's, what the environment." And she asked me what did I mean by that, and I told her that I see it presenting the school system, the whole school system, with competition, a degree of competition that they haven't had before. Now, having said that, I'm not completely up on how that's going to be structured, other than I know that there's going to be one or more organizations out there, and whether they camping out around Hoover schools, I don't know. But, it's kind of aimed at schools that are not doing well, and certainly most people would say Hoover doesn't fall into that game. Now, where I see that happening, though, is those school systems are going to go and I'm going to say, raid Hoover, or go and try to attract, okay, the good administrators and stuff to run those schools, because they got them incentive, to do well, okay? And so I see that, and I'm an entrepreneurial person, and I believe in free enterprise, and so I'm a proponent of the competitive nature, but competitiveness can also bite you in the behind, because you get a guy in place or a lady in place that's been there for 3 or 4 years, and then boom, they're up and gone, for more money or more opportunity or whatever. And how you keep that from happening, I'm not sure I have a good answer for that at this point in time. But I threw charter schools because I just think that is going to be a ground changer. I thought initially that wasn't going to stick here, but it looks like legislature people have pretty much stuck it where it's going to stay. I reckon is really what I'm saying. Did I answer your question?
Well, what about other critical issues that you see school system facing?
Like the busing and the reef. I mean, all I can say is I'm bringing a new set of eyes to that. Okay, I don't have any magical fix for that. But I would certainly, coming on board, I would certainly spend a lot of time analyzing. Where are you with all of that? And of course, I mean, the backlash from that has been, I reckon, probably gotta pick my words, the worst issue maybe, I don't know. And I don't know how that was all handled either, kind of being from the outside.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Mr. President. Mr. Fuller, as far as time, you say, time for the school board, some weeks can be lengthy. You have, no
Yes, it would, I am still working though, but I'm in the process of moving away from my company and have some options there of moving away from that, okay? I mean, my hope would be it wouldn't take that long, but you've got some pretty good issues. I mean, I could see that.
Okay.
I could be,
And is
it
your
ain't gonna be
schedule
a one.
flexible?
I'm
Is
sorry.
your schedule flexible?
Yes, I am flexible in that regard, right?
And have you been involved with any organizations associated with Hoover City Schools, PTO, the academies, anything?
No, I have not, other than like I said, the time map stuff where we've done that, and I
Have you been able to attend any school board meetings?
have not.
Thank you.
Ms. Smith? Ms. Lyon? Ready? Adam?
I'll ask you a question again.
Okay.
Very well.
We certainly appreciate you applying to the forward and recognize you certainly have great technology background.
Thank you.
Glad to have you in Hoover.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, thank you, guys. Good experience. I enjoyed it.
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Glad to have you this afternoon. You just take a few minutes and tell us about yourself and your interest in applying to the school.
Okay, my name is Scarlet Naftel. I'm a resident of Hoover, and I've been here about 9 years. It'll be 9 years in June. I have a strong employment background. I have a child in the school system. I have a broad life perspective, and I have budget preparation, monitoring, and maintenance experience. I've got some notes. I hope that's okay here.
Sure.
My son is a first grader at Green Valley Elementary. Will be in the class of 2026. My daughter will start in kindergarten this August, and she'll be in the class of 2028. We're currently zoned for Simmons and Hoover High School, and we're very excited about the academic opportunities at Hoover High School, including the IBS, AP, and the academic academies. My employment background includes 23 and a half years post-bachelor's employment. That's includes 8 years at a research institute, about 3 years in contract and management experience, program management, contract management, including 1 year at UAB. And I'm the first educator for my children. I'm a stay-at-home mom currently. I have a broad life perspective. I got my bachelor's and master's at out-of-state universities. I lived in Washington, D.C. for 10 years. My parents were both, my late parents were both educators in the Michigan public school system, and my sister is a certified teacher. I've also lived overseas. My budget preparation, monitoring, maintenance, told you a little bit about that already. My concerns for the school system are that I'm feeling in recent years there's kind of a disconnect between maybe the school board initiatives and what the population needs. It's a very good school system. It's strong. It's got a lot of wonderful things happening, but I feel like we're kind of maybe losing touch a little bit. It's a very diverse population. It's a very large school system. We do need to have busing. We do need to provide it free. We're not a Vestavia, a Homewood, or a Mountain Brook. It's just, that's not what Hoover is. The rezoning seems inappropriate. I think it's really important for our school system to create and maintain the small class sizes just to optimize our learning experiences for our students. Their schools are being overcrowded. It's my understanding that we need more space. We currently am concerned about the bullying policy for our school system. It seems to protect the bullies but not the victims. There's no kind of school for the elementary age for delinquent children. There's mainstreaming of children. They're being placed, they can be severely mentally challenged and a danger to others, and they're being placed in the schools, in the classrooms with the other students. That's the mainstreaming. Let's see. Currently at my son's school, there's a mandatory free breakfast initiative, and it's I don't believe that's necessary for all students. I hope that we would maintain and enhance our technology at all school levels. We'd maintain and enhance the curriculum for all levels of students. that we focus on the cleanliness of our school system and that we appreciate the efforts and the wonderful performance of our teachers. So in summary, I believe that I'm would be a good choice for this appointment. I'm a Hoover resident. I have children in the school system. I recognize and appreciate the diversity of our community. I can help improve the community relations, and I care about the school system.
Thank you. Do you have an idea how many students are in our total school system? You can look at your notes.
I don't have that. Okay.
You know how many schools we have in the system?
Can you give me just a minute? I can't say this right off the bat. We have thousands of students in Hoover High, thousands in Spain Park. It's we have to be, I get thousands. It is up 10,000 school systems. There has to be.
We got about 13,800.
Okay.
You know how many schools we have? High schools, junior?
There's 2 high schools, 3 middle schools. This is 2 high schools, 3 middle schools, and probably 6 or 7 elementary schools.
You have an idea what the school budget is?
I know the city donates about. I don't.
You have any idea how much reserves the school system has? Cash reserves?
I think I was seeing 190,000.
Okay. What do you see as the role of a school board member?
Oh, it's to support the school systems, is to help represent the entire district, and is to support and encourage the administrators and the school, the teachers and the superintendent, and it's to be an advocate.
What do you see as the role of the superintendent?
Oh, to oversee it all. They need to represent the school system and understand the needs and the needs of the community and the school system, and move it in a positive direction. Keep on track.
Questions from the council?
Yes, Mr. President. Thank you. In your introduction, you mentioned that you thought the latest rezoning proposals were inappropriate. And in one of your answers in the application, you spoke about one of the problems as being basically unbalanced school populations in some of the schools, being overcrowded. What would be your approach to assist to remedy that problem of overcrowding in some schools and maybe below capacity in the others, if you didn't consider some kind of rezoning?
Well, okay. It depends on the different levels. It seems like maybe there needs to be another high school built. And this is coming from a novice perspective, from my community perspective. I can see the understanding of rezoning to shift the populations, but it seems like there needs to be maybe more facilities. That some of the schools are just out of space, but that it's to bus the kids across town is, the idea is to have a community school, I think, and to have your kids stay in your community, and it builds that community, and the kids are with their neighbors and they're with like children. So I think maybe schools expanded. This runs into all kinds of other difficulties, though, I know, because it's financing for your facilities and things. So I don't have any quick, easy answers. I don't know all the issues, but it seems like the efforts would be really good to keep the kids in their neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
If I understood you correctly, you are not for offering free breakfast to students, is that correct?
Not for all students. I believe, my perspective is there truly are many students that need the assistance and they need the food, but that not all the children need it available to them. It's that sometimes the menu options are not the healthiest, and it's anecdotally, my son, we would give him, and drop him off at school at 7:30. He had breakfast at home about 7 o'clock. He would have snack, breakfast at school, snack, and lunch all by 11:30. It's just too much food, and he is one of those children that doesn't need it. There are definitely children that need it, so I think it should be provided for those that truly need it, but not to make it mandatory for all children. And I don't, prior, 2 years previously, that it was available to kids, they could go to the lunchroom, they could get it, and it was available to them if they needed it, but it wasn't implemented in the classrooms by the teachers to every child.
Is that happening today at Greenbelt?
Yes.
I know it was piloted at Trace Crossings, which, as you know, has a poverty rate of close to 50%. So these children, I think the term educators often use should be ready to learn, and certainly having nutrition is one aspect of being ready to learn.
Oh, and I completely agree with that. Yeah, a child who's hungry, there's no way they can focus and do their best in the classroom. So I completely agree for the children that need it, and I know it's complicated and maybe some peer pressure to sort that out.
Additional questions from the council?
You mentioned in your, about maintaining the budget. I'm not sure what you really meant by that. You know, since they've been operating at a bit of a deficit for the last year or so, and what do you mean by maintaining the budget?
Well, okay, maybe I was looking at the budget incorrectly and not delving deeply in enough. It doesn't, I didn't see that in the deficit. And maybe I'm just not reading it correctly, but it seemed like, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's running a deficit from what I was looking at, but maybe I didn't delve down deep enough. But if it's running a deficit, I guess things need to be changed, income increased or something. And this is difficult because I don't know all the information that you know. I don't know all the information that you know, so, based on what I know.
Mr. Green?
Are you involved with any of the organizations associated with the Hoover City Schools now, PTO or either academies, or do you volunteer in schools or anything?
No, I don't. I was in the PTO last year. I had a child at home where we're asked to stay out of the classrooms when we have a small child, to not bring them in to interfere. My husband goes in and reads to the children, and he's the Cub Scout den master for his group. So I'm supporting role. And also my father was at home with me from August till November, and he was had advanced dementia, and that was my job, initial job.
Thank you.
Ms. Naftel?
Yes.
How do you see technology in the future affecting the school systems that we have now?
Oh, you mean as far as the in-class learning?
Right.
And, I think it's a huge impact. This is kind of exciting and daunting thing. At my son's school, for instance, they have touch screen whiteboards where we used to have chalkboards. Now they can use laptops and they project things and they can interact with it on the boards. And so it's, I don't know. I
Are
think
you able to teach them the homework?
What's that?
Are you able to work with them and it's homework?
Yes, we do it low tech. We just do pen and paper, but but at school they have all that. So I think it's there, and it's wonderful that it's provided. There's a lab at his school where they go at least once a week, and they learn their little codes, their login codes, and they're using it. And that just compounded when you go up to the higher levels. Just the ability for them to have their notebooks to take home with them and utilize them, and just researching. And I think it's crucial and important, and it's really a wonderful thing that the school system has that.
Thank you.
Ms. Naftel, in reading your application, it seems that and it's good that a lot of your answers are issue driven. Are there any particular issues that caused you to print off the application or pick it up that are more meaningful to you than any others?
I really feel like it's my time that my children will be in school and that I can positively affect the community, and that there may be a need for a different perspective, an outside perspective, and I can do a good job.
You talked about the number of students and at the Hoover High, well, you talked about the Hoover High track and you're pleased with the education that the Hoover High track is providing. A lot of people talk about the fact that there are 2,800 students there now. By the time your kids get there, there may be more, there may be less. But I have had conversations with current school board members that Spain Park is underutilized for the size of the campus, and that they see that one quick, easy fix would be to take Green Valley and track it to Spain Park. What you thought about that?
Oh, this is logistically daunting. Going it's just physically challenging to get our children there. And even if they were to be bused, it would be just the amount of time they would spend on the bus and taking them out of the neighborhood. And my understanding at this point is, and it's just all anecdotal, is that Spain Park doesn't offer the same academic things like the academies and the IBS that they have at Hoover High School. And while probably every parent thinks this, I feel like my children are very gifted and bright, and that they will, if they keep on this track, will be eligible for those kind of academic pursuits. And we would want them to have those opportunities.
Thank you. Do you live in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, or Michigan?
Michigan.
Okay. What town do you live in?
Sheboygan, and it was just outside, a little bit south. My parents were teachers in the Sheboygan school system, and if you want me to show you, I can
What's
show
your
you.
biggest town?
What's that?
What's the biggest town in Sheboygan?
Sheboygan is actually the town.
Okay,
And
but
it's,
there's a Sheboygan in Wisconsin too.
yes, and Sheboygan, Michigan is C-H-E-B-O-Y-G-N, and it's, if this is Michigan, it's right up in the tip. It's
You're up
almost
there by Traverse City.
exactly. It's a couple hours northeast.
I lived in Dearborn as a kid, that's why I asked.
Oh, okay, yeah, a few hours straight north of where you were. Yeah.
Additional questions from the council? Hearing none, we appreciate your application and thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you this afternoon.
Thank you. I just brought this.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
We generally let you just open with 3 or 4 minutes about yourself, your interest in applying for the school board.
My name is Leonita Walker-Mede. I've been living in Hoover for about 8 years. I'm married to Pierre Mede. He's an attorney with the Legal Aid Society of Birmingham. It's a nonprofit association providing legal services for indigent clients. We have 2 children. We have Olivia Mede, who is 4, and Miranda Mede, that is 1. We live in River Chase community, live inside Lake Point Estates. I'm originally from Alabama, but I moved back to the state of Alabama in 2003, where I was attending law school. Moved back here from Michigan. I'm originally from North Alabama. I'm from Fackle, Alabama. Y'all probably never heard of it. It's a small rural area.
I'm from Flat Rock, Alabama.
Oh, so you've heard of it. Yeah. It's in Jackson County. It's a small community. And when I moved back here, I was attending school at Miles Law School, both me and my husband. And while I was attending law school, I did some community service. And at that time, I was living in the Centerpoint area. And while I was living in the Centerpoint area, I was involved with some educational programs through Huffman High School, doing educational readiness. Then once I actually graduated from law school in 2006, both me and my husband, I went down to, I graduated in 2006. I was admitted to practice law in 2006. And I opened my practice. My practice is located in Birmingham, Alabama. Some of the reasons as far as why I was applying for the school board, I think to be on the school board, you need a analytical thinker, someone who has leadership in order to move the district forward, and someone who doesn't have just one particular issue that they're going to focus on, but someone who's actually interested in the success of all the students in the area. I think I have pretty good sound judgment, even tempered, good with working with other individuals, and I think that is a good trait to have for the school board, because you would need someone who is able to listen to both sides and then make a judgment from there. I do have motivation to work as a team. I'm very respectful of other individuals. With my practice, as far as doing legal work, you have to be somewhat of a team member, because you have to work. It's not as far as just going in front of the judge. You have to work with other entities that are to get the clients the services that they need, as far as case managers and social workers and other. And that also goes back to, I've worked with a lot of young individuals. I worked as a GAL, which is a guardian ad litem for people who are juveniles, as far as looking at their interests and trying to get them the appropriate services. I tell a lot of people that a lot of people think that if you're an attorney that you just go in the courtroom. That's only like 10% of the actual job. So a lot of it is helping the person get in a more suitable place and giving them the services, helping them find the services, because services may be available, but they might not be the link as to get to the services. And also, one of the main reasons why I decided to apply for the school board is because education has always been a stepping stone for me. For me and my husband both, I don't think that I know that we wouldn't be to where we are if we had not utilized the services available through education. Even going from, because I attended Jacksonville State University. When I was at Jacksonville State University, I was on the debate team there, and after that I attended Miles. I graduated summa cum laude, and that's why I volunteered when I was in the Centerpoint area, because education is essential for building the foundations on how you're going to live the rest of your life. And I believe that if I could give some of my assets or information as far as what I've learned to others, that would be a benefit.
Good, thank you. Do you have some idea how many students are in the Hoover school system? You can look at your notes.
I know it is a large school system. I'm sorry, I don't have a.
Oh, it's about 13,000.
Yeah.
Do you know how many schools we have in the school system?
sir. I know you have two high schools and at least probably like 4 elementary schools.
Counting Crossroads, 10 elementaries. Do you have an idea what the school budget is a year?
I believe I know it was in excess of like 20 million, I think. I do not, but I will say that I'll be willing to learn. And
Do you have any idea what the school reserves are, how much cash they have?
no, sir.
What do you see the role of a school board member being?
Making certain the desires of the community are met and making sure that the school climate is one that is inclusive and that all the resources are available for the students.
What do you see the role of the superintendent being?
Overseeing the school and making sure that the core requirements are met as far as for the state curriculums.
Okay. Additional questions from the council?
Mr. President, ma'am, what is the one catalyst that caused you to want to apply this year versus last year, next year?
I wanted to get involved, and as far as with the, just mostly that I wanted to get involved.
Nothing wrong with
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Meade, in your application, you state that, in your opinion, one of the most critical issues facing the school is school leadership. Are you saying that the school lacks good leadership, needs better leadership, or explain that to us?
What I was saying was not that the school lacks good leadership, but that with school leadership, it would affect the climate as far as whether it's to a positive or a negative, and just that with a leader, you want the community to feel comfortable also.
So you think that is an issue, that the community does not feel at ease, and a more proactive leadership would better serve the community?
No, I don't think I would exactly be saying, I don't think that was exactly what I was saying. I think it was going more towards just the school climate. I don't think I was saying exactly that the school leadership in itself, that I don't think that's what I was trying to portray. If it was, that's what I didn't mean to.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Meade, can you explain to us what kind of financial background you have and whether or not you have much experience with budgets and reading financial statements and that kind of thing with multi-million dollars? Or do you have any background in that?
Well, as far as with financials, I was on the Thompson Cooley Law School Board on there, but their budget was a whole lot smaller in reference, in comparison to the school board budget. I think the budget that we had was it ranged anywhere from like 3 to 5 million.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lyden? Have other questions? Mr. Green?
Ms. Ma'am, would you comment on, noticing that you have here creating an inclusive school climate where all students can achieve their maximum responsibilities. What's the inclusive, can you elaborate on that somewhat for me?
Well, when I say inclusive, what I was meaning, and it goes back to more of a personal, and the reason why I say that is my brother he attended Hoover High School, and he actually transferred from a high school that was in northern Alabama, and me and my mom and my father, we were trying to see, he was having like reading issues. He was having issues, and he had to go through the whole like IEP, which is the education thing, and they were able to pinpoint it. So I do think, and I think on one of the application, or one of the other questions also spoke about that when it was asking questions about special. What do you think about like the special education? I think that they did a good job as far as pinpointing that, but I just stated that because I just based on that that was just my personal input on it.
Have you been involved in any organizations associated with Hoover City Schools, PTO?
No, I have not.
Volunteered in schools or anything? No. What about school board meetings? Have you been attending of those?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. President, if I could.
Yes, sir.
You had mentioned your brother, once they determined his special education needs, did they fulfill those needs?
Yes, they did. They did.
Thank you.
Comments from the council? I appreciate your comment. I appreciate you living in Hoover and your application. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Leonita, you know where Flat Rock is?
Yeah.
Probably the only one we'll talk to today. I went to Pisgah.
You went to Pisgah. We played them in basketball. I played basketball when I was at North Jackson. That's where I went to high school at.
Good times up there.
It is. In a pretty area.
Absolutely.
You second string there, John?
We begged.